family, it's Dr. Ariana, and in this podcast, I am first and foremost acknowledging that it's Menopause Awareness Month. Yes, October is Menopause Awareness Month. As I would say, coming up every month is Menopause Awareness Month on the Stay Juicy podcast, but we are celebrating that anyway. And we are talking about menopause and weight gain. And specifically, I'm going to be talking to you all about the GLP-1s, the GIPs, the role that estrogen plays in your metabolism, and really just help you understand why your metabolism might be fighting with you right now, and what is real and what are some ways that you may consider. So I'll say before this episode, at the end of the day, your lifestyle and what you put in your mouth is everything. But there are tools available, and there's new data out saying that, if you're on a GLP-1 and you add estrogen to that therapy, then you actually can lose more weight, more percentage body weight than if you did not. So I guess when I think about the study, which I'll discuss a little bit in the podcast, I think that for me, it's kind of logical that these things would happen if you understand what estrogen does and you understand what GLP-1s. They work entirely differently, but when you combine those two together, it makes sense. And I think what the point of all of it is getting at is that estrogen matters and it plays a huge role in our metabolism and ultimately our health. So listen up. I hope you enjoy this one. And as usual, please share and like and do all the things. I appreciate you all. Welcome, family, to another episode of the Stay Juicy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Ariana, and as usual, I'm excited to be here, excited to speak with you all. We're going to be talking today about hormone therapy alongside this GLP craze. And before we get into that, I want to say it's really, believe it or not, it's not vanity. It's actually biology that's happening. And estrogen plays a key role in how we metabolize fat. And I think we're just starting to really begin to understand this even more. And science is catching up with what women have known all along, that something is happening that is just, I don't know what. I'm literally eating the exact same thing. I'm doing the exact same thing. And this belly is just coming. And, all of us have seen it, or at least have friends experienced it, and it drives us crazy. We call it the meno belly. If I had $1 for every woman that's come in my office and been like, what about this? And they're grabbing their belly and just like, for real, what is happening here? There's a new wave of research showing that these GLP-1s, and we'll talk about what is a GLP-1, what is a GIP, but this research now is really looking at the impact of adding these therapies, these types of therapies, to our standard hormone therapy, specifically estrogen. It was presented at the Endocrine Society this year. And this is what happens at our different societies of different specialties. Those that are doing research in the field will present that data. And that data hasn't technically been what we call peer reviewed yet, so to speak, but it is at least noteworthy enough that they're presenting it at a reputable society. This isn't about being skinny or, just fitting in a certain dress. It's really about understanding actually what's happening to your biology and actually understanding the other risks that poses for your health. Because before, I dare say, it was about being cute, getting in that dress, and, being all the things. And that's still something we can strive for. But at the end of the day, now it's about longevity. It's about my health. It's about, okay, I have to start making choices that actually will impact the quality of my life as I age. And so this is why I'm having this conversation, not because I think everyone should be a certain size, or I think it's just cool that you can lose some extra weight, but because the health implications are there. And the more weight that we're carrying, the more insulin resistance we have, the more sugars in our diet, like all of those things lead to the same inflammatory path that accelerates our aging and just really puts us in positions that we don't have to be in it if we are a little bit more proactive. So I'm just excited to be in the trenches, doing the work. And I am just hoping that the information that you get is valuable and you share it, and not just because I want to be shared, but because as women, I feel like we have, in some instances, done ourselves a disservice and not really sharing our experiences. And I know we share more than men do, but I also know that a lot of you all are living in a sense of isolation and not really feeling comfortable talking about what's happening to you, how you're feeling. Almost a day doesn't go by that a woman doesn't literally tell me, like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And I hear it all the time. And so you may not hear it all the time, or maybe you do if you're on social media and, in the Do Not Care Club and all the things, but just know that you're not alone. And that's the purpose of all of this. And this is why I asked you to share, because friends don't let friends go through menopause alone. I would say how apropos, because October is Menopause Awareness Month, but I'm like, every month is Menopause Awareness Month on the Stay Juicy podcast. So I really couldn't think of anything more extra special to do, because that's pretty much what I talk about all the time. But I'm so glad that the rest of the world is acknowledging this time. I'm so glad that women are becoming more informed and empowered. Anyway, understanding where I'm coming from, I want to start with just talking about the GLPs and helping you understand the difference. So there's the first wave of these peptides. These are gut peptides. So these are substances that you actually normally make in your gut. And GLP stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. And just think as a GLP-1 as your body's kind of appetite whisperer. It's a natural hormone that's made in your gut when you eat. So you naturally make this hormone. And it helps your brain say, oh, I'm full, slow down. I'm not hungry anymore. I don't really want to eat. It also helps your pancreas release insulin to keep your blood sugar steady. So those blood sugar spikes are real, and our glucose metabolism is affected by this perimenopausal shift. But when we use these medications like GLP-1s, those are like Ozempic. Ozempic is for the diabetic, but Wegovy is the same exact drug. It's just what they brand it as the weight loss drug. It's amazing. They actually quiet the food noise in your brain, increase satiety. And they're even using these drugs for other things, for addictions. And now it's actually even approved for sleep apnea, trulicity, I believe. So there's so much more to these drugs than just, the hype that they kind of came out with when the celebrities and everyone's, talking about Ozempic face. And now we're even talking about Ozempic vulvas, apparently. There's literally an article I think I saw in Forbes, and I had a hard time reading it, but anyway, it's there if you want to know about Ozempic vulva. It's a thing. They'll write about anything these days to get your attention. But anywho's, think of semaglutide, Ozempic or Wegovy, as, again, that appetite whisperer. And then there's the GIP, and that's where your tirzepatides and your Mounjaros come in, right? And so tirzepatide, which is the generic name for basically Mounjaro, what you've heard, is a GLP with a GIP. And the GIP is another gut hormone, and it works alongside the GLP. It is the fullness whisperer. So you have the appetite whisperer, like I don't really want to eat, and then the fullness one. GIP is the energy manager. It helps your body use the food you eat more efficiently, and it's kind of guiding more where energy is stored in your body and how it's burned. And that's what makes it overall a little bit more superior in terms of weight loss than a GLP such as Ozempic by itself. But the weight loss name for Mounjaro is Zepbound. So there's Ozempic, which is for the diabetic, and then there's Wegovy, and then there's Mounjaro, which is the tirzepatide, and the Zepbound, which is the diet form. I think most people have been referring to it mostly as Ozempic and Mounjaro, but I just wanted to get some clarity for that. But anyway, this dual action leads to just greater improvements in appetite control and metabolism. So this is really, when you think about this as a medication, I mean, the idea that you were taking estrogen, just like, any normal day, and then you started taking a GLP-1, and you kept taking your estrogen, you would lose more weight. than if you just took your estrogen alone. So I think that goes without saying. But before I go on, I just want to zoom out for a second. And I want to kind of talk about the landscape of the medications that are also evolving, because we are seeing now that there are even more GLPs that are coming out, and there's going to be a whole new kind of era of them. So the ones that I spoke of before was this Ozempic Wegovy, the Mounjaro Zepbound, and then there's some others that really are, I mean, they're not as high of players, but there is one called rebelsus. That's the oral form of Ozempic. And then trulicity actually is dulaglutide, and it is also an oral medication, and it does actually have some modest weight loss components to it. If you are having, well, first of all, please know what your hemoglobin A1C is and understand that, 5.7 to 6.4 is what we describe as pre-diabetic. But at the end of the day, once your hemoglobin A1C especially is over 6, then you really need to be in that mindset that you're not really pre-diabetic. Like, we're talking a couple of points here, and at the end of the day, the impact that it has on our bodies is significant. So, you may not understandably want to take any of these types of medications, but just understand the importance of your blood sugar, and that's just a number you should kind of know literally off the top of your head. And yeah, if it's high, like, don't be in denial. There's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm pre-diabetic, and I'm like, yeah, that's not good. And I mean, there's a trajectory here, and it is very real that your perimenopause experience is affecting that trajectory. But there are some newer ones that are coming on the block. I'm going to have to read these because these are newer to me. But the first one is retatrutide, and it's a triple agonist. It's working on the GLP-1, the GIP, and then it's going to add some glucagon receptors. And so it looks like it's going to be a heavy hitter coming out. And then there's CagriSema, and that's a combination of semaglutide and amylin, which could help protect muscle and even steady your appetite more. Keep an eye out for that. And then I'm going to try to pronounce these: orforglipron and danuglipron. And these are experimental oral GLP-1 pills, and they don't need to be refrigerated, and you don't have to inject them. And that's another place where this is going. People don't want to be injected, and that's entirely understandable. And then there's this last one here, pemvidutide, and this is another dual GLP-1 glucagon drug, and it's being studied for weight loss and also for liver fat reduction. So what does that mean? It means that we're moving into a world of, I guess, one size fits all with weight management, but don't think of it as weight management. Think of it as metabolism management, because that's what we're doing in midlife. We are managing the metabolism, and although I'm talking about the GLPs, we have to manage that through all of the ways. And obviously we cannot discount our diets and our activity, because that's that's everything. So now I want to just I'm going to give you the background of this quick information, this study, just because that was kind of the point of the podcast until I really thought about it. And I was like, that's really not earth-shattering news, but this Mayo Clinic, specifically Mayo Clinic Center for Women's Health Research and the NIH Bridging Interdisciplinary Careers in Women's Health Research Grant are really the sponsors of this study. So I was happy to see that it was not through a drug company, or that didn't have, hopefully it's some conflict of interest. And basically, women that took tirzepatide and hormone therapy, they lost 17% of their body weight, versus those that only took hormone therapy, and they only lost 14%. But more than 50% of them lost more than 20% of their body weight. And so even in just kind of the broader reviews out there, I mean, this is a thing that's being studied, in this combination of hormone therapy with these GLPs. Now, why are we even talking about this? Because you might be asking, well, how does my estrogen affect my metabolism and my weight? And it absolutely does, because insulin has some pretty key roles in metabolism, in insulin sensitivity, and where and how much fat we store, and even in our appetite. So understanding estrogen's role might help you understand a little bit better about why you're having these experiences and why things are happening that you are like, wait, what's going on? So estrogen is actually one of our body's most powerful metabolic regulators. It is, when it's steady, your metabolism, think of it as just humming. She keeps your blood sugar balanced. She helps your muscles use fuel more efficiently, tells your body to store fat in other places other than your abdomen. So that's the thick thighs and the juicy hips. No more. It's going to the belly. And that is not our good fat. Belly fat is never a good thing. I'm trying to think of what exception, and I can't find one, but we can make an argument for the hips and maybe even those thighs, but the belly, it's just the most unhealthy way and place for us to store fat. So when we see that belly fat that's creeping in, we have dips in our energy, our cravings maybe ramp up, and no matter what, your weight will not change, no matter what you do. And I've heard this so many times that it's comical to me. And it's really not your willpower that disappeared. It's what I would describe as your metabolic thermostat just got turned down. And it really did get turned down because you were like, I was humming up here and now I'm not. And it's like, what happened? That's what happened. It did happen. I will not gaslight. People will be like, well, what happened? Like, they're just like, we just came out of the dark here. And we're just like, what happened? Nobody knows what happened. Menopause happened. Your estrogen levels went down. That's what happened. So estrogen helps your cells stay sensitive to insulin. It helps your cells, it helps to tone your muscle cells. And estrogen is anti-inflammatory, like it keeps inflammation at bay in your body. That is what is so fascinating also about placing women on hormone therapy. And they're like, my joint pain's gone. I feel so much better. Think of it kind of like, I call this podcast Stay Juicy for a reason. And it's because we really need everything to stay juicy. Like we need all of the things to keep moving and lubricating and doing what they do. And estrogen is one way, just saying, that you can keep things juicy. And I mean that in every sense of the word. So we are not just talking about, again, the scale. We're talking about how to get your body back in the best metabolic balance for you. So hopefully you all have a good understanding, better understanding of how GLPs, GIPs work, what estrogen does, and how its impact on your metabolism. Estrogen, just by itself, is a major metabolic regulator. So something to keep in mind. And now I want to talk to something that we don't talk a lot about, which is what happens when you stop taking these GLP-1s. It's just kind of like when people say, how long do I have to take estrogen? And I'm like, I don't know. How long do you want to stay juicy? It's up to you. It's your call. There's no evidence that you should stop. And if you feel better when you're on it, then okay, maybe you should stay. If you don't, it's really that's a personal choice. There's no right or wrong. People ask all the time, how long should I? And it's like, but I'm going to tell you, when I talk to 70-year-old women who are on hormone therapy, they're like, yeah, they're good. And again, there are plenty of those that are not on hormone therapy. So I will apologize in advance for my bias, but my bias is in what I see in those people that are on hormone therapy, not per se what I want them to do as much as what the evidence has shown me. But I also know that there are, again, lots of individuals that are doing all the things and healthy. And, it's challenging because every woman has her own experience, and there really is no right or wrong or when to necessarily stop or start. Like you have to start to learn your body, but just be open to the fact that there are some things that could support you. But what happens when you stop taking it? Well, you gain the weight back. That's pretty much it. And you can, mitigate that significantly, just like with any diet. Like, you go on a diet and then you stop doing the diet, then guess what happens? You start to gain the weight. So this is not irreversible weight loss. Nobody has found one of those. But the really clear picture is that you're going to gain about 2/3 of the weight you lost within a year. And this is where it's a problem because I'm going to say if you're not going to be really committed to either the long-term game or like really make the lifestyle changes, then you are doing yourself a disservice by doing any of this, because the yo-yo will jack you up. And this is why, because you lose all that weight, but you're also losing muscle, and muscle is what is also going to support your metabolism, not to mention just your overall musculoskeletal health. Muscle is an important part of just our overall well-being. So you lose the weight, you lose the muscle, and then you gain the weight back. Guess what you're not gaining back? You're not getting the muscle back. You're getting more fat. And so your fat to muscle ratio is going to shift the more you yo-yo. And that is why yo-yo dieting is terrible, that up and down of weight. And if you're going to play those games, then you better be in the gym, you better be lifting weights, and you better be very, very mindful of what your muscle mass is and what's going on there. You just really don't want to play around with that, because that shift in that fat to muscle ratio increases your just poor cardiac outcomes, your risk for diabetes. Like it's not a good game. And the older you get, like maybe when, up to your 30s, I don't know, but after a certain point, you just really don't want to play those games anymore. But you can stack the odds in your favor if you are thoughtful and think really long term. These are not fixes. You might take it and maybe you take 6 months off. You might, we have that oftentimes in the clinic. People, they've just been like, listen, can I just keep taking this? And, I'm like, yeah, you can. I'm certainly not recommending that as a lifestyle per se, but there are patients that start this, and because they feel so much better in terms of inflammation, in terms of their bodies being able to really, be more sensitized to insulin, their appetite, there's their quality of life. They just feel better, and they just, for that reason. And so, I would love us to be in a world where it was more accessible for us to live healthier lifestyles and do those things. But in our world, these are at least some of the tools that are there for those that struggle. And there's definitely a struggle with even just food addiction. Like, a lot of people are addicted to food, and it presents itself in ways that, just don't look like the other addictions that we scorn. But food addiction is probably the number one addiction, in my opinion, when I speak with people. And there's a lot of secret eating and cravings and all the things. So food is just a part of our society that we really seem to value. And how do we work around all of the, deliciousness that we want, but be able to still live a healthy life? Just a question, just throwing it out there. But you got to think the long-term game. You have to taper with intention. If you are going to stop, you need to go real slow and really let your body have that chance to readjust and really get into that groove. And I've seen some great success with that technique of tapering very, very slowly, and just allowing us to. It's kind of like, it's like putting you back in the room with all the sweets, right? We're not going to just put you all the way back in there, or whatever, you're sweet or savory. I'm savory. So for me, it would be the nachos and the tacos and the pasta. But we're not just going to put you in there and be like, okay, you got this. By tapering, you're kind of like, you're in the room, but you kind of got some guardrails. You got a whole bunch of people. There's things that are keeping you from going for it if nobody was looking. Think of it that way. And that taper just gives you the strength each time, because you honestly need the strength. You have to change your thinking, and changing your thinking is impossible when your biology is speaking directly against it. When you have insulin sensitivity, you can change your thinking all you want. Your body doesn't metabolize fat and energy in the same way. And that's just, you can't think that way. But I understand that it's an individualized therapy. I think they can be powerful synergistically with estrogen. I guess my perspective is always like, well, you were on the estrogen, we added the GLP, of course you're going to lose weight. But I guess from those people that, I'm an estrogen fan, so I'm like, why wouldn't you have been on estrogen in the first place and added the GLP? But that wouldn't have been as remarkable a study, I guess. But that said, you really want a program in terms, if you're going to do this journey, have a practitioner that really can support you. and not just, give you a script and go out there and just kind of manage it. You really want to have some support in this journey and understand that, your lifestyle is so important. And this is why I love our staff at Tula, because Rachel, she's actually a trainer, and she came to us and really has been such a gift to Tula because she understands metabolism. She understands, how to move your body. And when you look at her, you're just like, okay, she's a trainer. She's been in the gym. Actually, I think she owns a gym herself. And so she's just very knowledgeable. And she's really great at just giving patients more tools to kind of help manage it. And there's some little tricks and things. It's more than just taking a pill or shot or, losing those pounds. It really is a lifestyle. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because it can be a game changer for you, whether it's hormone therapy or GLP-1. For some people, it is a game changer. And so I hope that I've given you all some better understanding of what they are, why you might consider them, and really also to be careful. Do all the other things. I'm not advocating for us to throw any of the other tools out. In fact, they have to be first and foremost. But that said, we are here to support you. I'm here to support you. And as usual, I am appreciative. And so I like to think that Tula this is a place where women can really get the full spectrum of support. We can help with the weight loss. We can help with your hormone therapy. We can help with your metabolic testing. We do a thing called Staiku in the office, and you stand on it and it twists you all around, and it's basically your body composition. It's not like the ones where you just stand and they're like, oh, you have this % body fat. Like, it actually is a diagram of your body, and like you can see every bulge that you kind of can't see because you have clothes on. You can see all of them. You can see what your belly's doing. It's a lot, but let me tell you, it gives you so much information, and information is power, and it's going to help you be empowered. And if you need help with this as well, I am also available. I have been offering concierge menopause kind of counseling, coaching. It is really just for women who want some extra time and attention and opportunity to really dive deep. We're not just going to talk about hormones, but we're going to talk about the whole thing and all the changes and what are the ways that you can support yourself better going forward. And I love doing this work, probably for selfish reasons, because it helps me. Because the more I talk and help other women, then it literally helps me figure out what the hell I'm doing. So y'all are helping me. If you've gotten this far, I'm going to ask you to do this one thing, and that's just to share the podcast with a friend. Share it with 3 friends. Like, spread the news. Also, make a comment, download, do all the things that make it so that other people realize that this is something worth listening to. And you know how y'all are. If you don't have enough stars or folks ain't doing all the things, then you're not going to listen. So, if you think it's worth it, just share that so somebody else might listen. As usual, stay juicy, stay empowered, and remember, you are not losing yourself in this season. You're finding a stronger, more evolved you, the best you that ever was. So stay juicy, family. I'll see you on the next one.